Hello everyone, it's Rich with TSK F1, and today I'm going to be talking about F1, the FIA offers coming in to purchase F1 and the fallout that the FIA president and F1 are having and what both sides are saying. I'm going to try and clear up some things that new fans to the sport might not be aware of and just generally give an overview of my thoughts about what's going on. This is gigantic news, in my opinion, and I'm really surprised it's not being covered way more. So I'm going to give you as much detail as I can. Please do make sure you're hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. The beginning of this is that in 2022, a bid was made for Formula One of about $20 billion. This was made by the Saudi investment fund, PiF. Now, these are staggeringly rich people, and this is the Royal Sovereign Wealth Fund, basically. And they make investments all over the world in all different types of companies. And F1 was seen as one of these opportunities, and they made a bid of $20 billion, which was rejected. Now, you may have heard of PIF because they fairly recently purchased Newcastle United. Now, immediately, people will think this is a bad thing and people will have all kinds of opinions on this, but this is the background. They have made an offer of 20 billion and it was rejected. Now, the story was reported by Bloomberg that PIF basically said there's more to come. If you want more money, then there is more if you want it. But the 20 billion was rejected. Now, for what it's worth, I'm an outsider looking in at the whole Newcastle situation. Okay, people will have opinions about where the money's coming from and things like that. For what it's worth, they seem to be doing a decent job in their ownership of Newcastle so far. If you're a fan of Newcastle, let us know what you think in the comments down below. But we're going to delve deeper into this whole situation, because on the back of this, the FIA president came back and tweeted about this, saying, as the custodians of motorsport, the FIA, as a non-profit organization, is cautious about the alleged inflated price tags of 20 billion being put on F1. Any potential buyer is advised to apply common sense, consider the greater good of the sport, and come with a clear, sustainable plan, not just a lot of money. It's our duty to consider the future impact will be for promoters in terms of increased hosting fees and other commercial costs, and any adverse impact that it could have on fans. And then in sort of response to this, the F1 Liberty Media have come back and pretty much told the FIA president to keep his nose out, that it's nothing to do with him. And he's reminded Formula One that basically the Formula One entity is rented to the the commercial rights holder. So what does this all mean? What does this all mean? Well, back in the year 2000, before either of these chaps were in their current position of power, Bernie Ecclestone, the old owner of Formula One, struck a deal for the commercial rights from the FIA, a 100-year lease for the commercial rights. And that is what he sold to Liberty Media back in 2017. So really, the FIA still do kind of own it, but it's been leased out to the current sort of custodians, if you like. Obviously, a lot of money is changing hands, but that's how it is. I might be oversimplifying this, but imagine you've got a plot of land, but you may lease that land, I guess it's like a leasehold, and you lease that land out to a developer that can build houses and stuff, but the land is still owned by someone else, even though there's homes on it and things like that. That happens, and this is similar here. The FIA still do, in effect, sort of own Formula One. They don't actually, but what they do have is a Don King clause within the contract. And what this means is anything that Formula One decides can be vetoed by the FIA. I realize I'm contradicting myself, but this is quite difficult to kind of explain. Anything that F1 decides, FIA can veto. So the PIF investment fund can come back into the situation and say, you know what, we've got nearly 700 billion in cash reserves. We really want Formula One. Here's 100 billion. And Liberty Media, current commercial rights holders, could say, quids in, let's have it. We're good. But then this guy can say no and just say no. Simple as that. They have a watertight veto, especially when it comes to changing of ownership. So it was a little bit naive for Formula One to say, keep your nose out of this. And for what it's worth, my stance is very similar to this one. Now, I've talked about this on the morning show at 9 a.m. before, and there were comments saying such things like, it doesn't really matter as long as the racing continues and things like this. And I think this really matters. I think this matters a lot, because you've got exactly the points that are raised almost immediately here. You've got to come with a sustainable plan. You can't just throw money at it and then look to milk it dry. You can't come in and then just say you're going to raise the hosting fees everywhere. You can't add another 10 races to the calendar. Well, they could. This is kind of the point. They have to come forward with a plan, not just loads of money. And I really, really worry about the future of Formula One if there is no clear plan laid out from a potential bidder. Now, I'm not against or for any potential ownership, honestly, from PIF. I just want to know, as a Formula One fan, what is the direction, what is the intent, and where are we going with the sport? What do they want from it? Obviously, I get no say in this at all, but I would like that as a lifelong fan of Formula One. I'd like to know, okay, these people are coming in. What's the 5, 10, 15-year plan of their ownership? What is it they're intending to do? And I think that's a very reasonable request. And actually, I think these comments are right on. I've got a side on this from the integrity of the sport and what we would want from the sport. I think going on the side of caution, it's a lot of money. Now, is 20 billion an inflated price for the commercial rights of Formula One? Now, again, I'm sorry to bring it back to football. The only thing I can think of at the minute that's kind of happening is Manchester United being sold. And there's talk of that being about £6 billion. If Manchester United is worth £6 billion, the entire commercial rights of F1 being £20 billion, it seems plausible to me. I'd love your opinions on it. Now, I would like to see a plan. I'd like to see what they're intending to do. And I'm not against it, but I also have to say that F1 is becoming a sport for, I won't say rich people, but gone are the days, really, that you can go on somewhat of a low wage. Like, there's so many stories of people who give up sort of their family holiday so that they can afford to go to Formula One and things. It's insane the amount it can cost these days, especially at Silverstone. Now, I realise people are in a different position and whatnot financially, but everything is going up. You only have to look at what's happening with the Las Vegas Grand Prix and the packages that are being sold there, and it's pretty insane. But I'd love your opinions on this. I'd like to know if you're against this potential ownership, whether you're for it, whether you're indifferent. Do you agree with the FIA's stance that we need a plan? Or do you agree with Formula One that the FIA should keep the nose out? Let me know down in the comments. As always, please do make sure you've liked the video and subscribed. I'll see you soon.